One of the fathers of the church, Saint Germanus, who was the bishop and patriarch of Constantinople, called Our Blessed Lady the breath of life. He says that as the body cannot live without breathing, so the soul cannot live without having recourse and commending itself to Mary, through whose means the life of divine grace is obtained for us and preserved in us. As breathing is not only the sign of life, he says, but also the cause of life, so is the name of Mary, when it is spoken by the servants of God. Not only does it prove that they are living, but procures and maintains this life and obtains for them every aid. My name is Father Matthias. This is Mary Maximalism. God is constantly giving us life, supernatural life, and He's constantly giving it to us through Our Lady, through her mediation. We can use an analogy. Just like a biological father cannot give life to his children unless it's through the mother of those children, in a similar way, God does not want to give life to His children. He does not want to give supernatural life, which is grace, to His children, unless it's through the mediation of a mother, our mother, Mary. It's precisely for this reason that her holy name should be the breath of our soul, and we should invoke the name of Mary often, and even very often. In fact, there's an amazing book that talks about this. It's called Life of Union with Mary, published by Father Emil Nubert. There's an amazing chapter there about invoking the most holy name of the Blessed Virgin Mary. I'll read from you just briefly. Father Nubert, the author, says that of all the prayers to the Blessed Virgin, the shortest, and in a certain sense, the most perfect, is the invocation of her most holy name. It's short, it's efficacious, it's one of the most perfect ways of invoking Our Lady. In fact, the name of Mary can take on a long litany of meanings, depending on our state of soul and on our needs of the moment. Mary sometimes means, I love you, Mother. Sometimes it means, help me, or thank you, or this is for you, I offer it to you, or in your name. And at other times, it can mean, I am sorrowful, Mother Mary, console me, or I have sinned, obtain pardon of Jesus for me, and so on. According to the state of soul, it can take on so many different meanings and obtain for us grace in every circumstance. But it must be pronounced slowly, so that we are able to put into it our whole soul, all that we think, all that we feel, all that we desire at the moment of pronouncing it. And as we invoke Mary's name in a variety of circumstances, so in every circumstance we will receive the grace we need. This is exactly what Saint Germanus means when he says it procures, the most holy name procures life and obtains for the servants of Mary every single aid. I'd like to illustrate this practice of invoking the name of Mary by an episode from the life of Saint Maximilian Kolbe. And in reality, it's not directly from his life. It's actually from the life of a certain priest. Now, get ready for a tough Polish name, Father Mieczysław Mirochna. Now, that's a pretty tough name, so to make it easy, we will just call him Father Myro. So this is an episode from the life of Father Myro, who was a disciple of Saint Maximilian who followed him in Japan. Father Myro met Saint Maximilian in 1930, when Saint Maximilian was briefly back in Poland from his mission in Japan. There in Poland they met, and Father Myro wanted to go back to Japan with Saint Maximilian, but he met all kinds of difficulties and obstacles. In fact, he had a blood brother in the Franciscan order who was very opposed to him going. His brother's name, Father Julian, in fact, started telling the provincial that my brother shouldn't go, you shouldn't let him go, it's going to be a disaster. And that obviously caused problems for Father Myro. He wasn't getting the permission that he wanted. So he went to St. Maximilian, told him the situation, and this is the advice that St. Maximilian gave him. St. Maximilian said to Father Myro, who at that time was still a seminarian, very young and a very sensitive soul, he said to him, let us pray in a special way until your brother gets here. Father Myro and his brother Julian were going to meet and talk. When the meeting actually takes place, I ask you to tell your brother exactly what you feel in your heart, just as it really is. But beforehand, when you are having this conversation with your brother, I ask you to invoke the most holy name of Mary in the depths of your soul. and do this many times. Now, Father Myro took this advice. He needed this advice. He was afraid of having this meeting with his brother. In fact, it was the second meeting that he was going to have. The first one didn't go so well at all. In fact, the first time that he talked with his brother, Father Julian, about going to Japan, his brother, Father Julian, was so angry and was so opposed, and Father Myro was so weak that he cried like a baby. And he was afraid that it was going to happen again. So he needed this advice. Now, Father Myro tells us that when the day of the meeting arrived, first, his brother spoke at length. Whereas during his discourse, with all my strength, I was invoking the most holy name of Mary in the depths of my soul, just as St. Maximilian told me to do. And then, when my brother was done speaking, even I was surprised with what passion and courage I spoke. And as I was speaking to my brother, as I said all these things to him, I kept invoking the name of Mary in the depths of my heart. Now it was Father Julian's turn to listen to Father Myro. And guess what? Not only did Father Myro find the courage he didn't have before, again, he cried like a baby the first time he tried to speak to his brother. Not only did he find the courage to speak, and he was surprised at how much courage he had, Father Julian completely changed his mind. At the end of Father Myro's turn to speak, Father Julian said, "Myro, I understand you now. I take back everything that I have said until now. I will go to see Father Provincial. I'm going to take back all I told him. I'm going to ask him to let you go to Japan and to grant you permission to depart together with Father Maximilian." Father Myro, who tells us this story in his memoirs about the life of St. Maximilian, the life he had with St. Maximilian, says, "Trusting in Our Lady, prayer to Our Lady, especially the invocation of her holy name, is able to so powerfully transform the human heart. Just as Father Maximilian had told me, Mary, the Mother of God, is truly the Mother of the Almighty One." And to make a long story short, Father Myro did indeed receive permission to go with St. Maximilian to Japan. And he was one of his most faithful collaborators. And in fact, from 1930 all the way until his death in 1989, he dedicated himself to spreading devotion to her amongst the Japanese people. Now, if we get into the habit of invoking the name of Mary in all circumstances of our life, if we get into the habit of putting our whole soul into that invocation at every moment, we will be sure to receive graces for every circumstance. Just as St. Germanus tells us, justly, the most holy name of the Virgin is called the breath of Christians, because as the body cannot live without breathing, so the soul cannot live without having recourse and commending itself to Mary, through whose means the life of grace is obtained and preserved in us, and aid is obtained for every circumstance. I'm just gonna go straight into, that's it. That's actually it for today. That's it.